The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Shocking news today, Princess Kate opening up and discussing her cancer diagnosis.
So many people had been speculating, both good and bad, about why she hadn't been seen. So this was certainly something that a lot of people were looking for. But we want to talk with our 9 Health expert, Dr. Powell Coley, about what we do know, what we did learn today. And when she talked about additional testing done, when they initially said after her abdominal surgery she did not have cancer, now, what are these additional tests they're talking about, and is it something that is done normally with people going for this type of abdominal surgery?
You know, anyone who has any kind of surgery, we send this section for pathology, which means we put it under the microscope and we take a look at it. Now, sometimes if your suspicion for cancer is high, you'll actually do an intraoperative frozen section, which means you'll send it for pathology while the patient is still undergoing the surgery so that you have an answer, so that you know whether you're performing a cancer surgery or it's not cancerous and you can just close them up as usual. But sometimes you'll get that answer afterwards, especially if you're going in not expecting to find a cancer. It could take a few days for that pathology to come back showing malignant or cancerous cells.
So this term preventative chemotherapy, a lot of folks have never heard about that. They don't even know what it is. How do you explain it?
So preventative chemotherapy is not really a term in the medical community.
Yeah.
It sort of more explains what this chemotherapy is for, but really what it's called in the medical community is adjuvant chemotherapy because it's done after the surgery as an adjuvant to the surgery. If it's done before the surgery to shrink the cancer before they operate, that's called neoadjuvant, and then they do the surgery. But oftentimes we will do adjuvant chemotherapy for one of two reasons. One is sort of a preventative thing, as you know, our princess is saying, which is just to make sure that you reduce the risk of recurrence in case there are microscopic cells left behind. The second is if you've had evidence that it spread past the organ, like to lymph nodes or even potentially beyond, then you really want to hit it hard because it's almost confirmed that you've left microscopic cells behind, and it reduces the chance of recurrence later on.
So I don't know much about this, but I do know that lighting and makeup can help people like what we do in television. But I thought she looked very good. She sounded very healthy. I mean, do you draw anything from her appearance and the way she spoke today?
You know, certainly there are things you can draw. So she had a major abdominal surgery, and that will take weeks to recover. She was in the hospital 13 days, which suggests that it might have been a more extensive type of surgery because most surgeries, it's usually 3 days, sometimes 5 days, but 13 days could be for more extensive types of abdominal surgery. So she has to physically recover from the surgery. And then about a month after her surgery at the end of February is when she started receiving that chemotherapy. And that can affect the healing. So you don't want to give it too soon after surgery because your wounds have to heal. You have to be strong enough to sort of get the chemo. But you also don't want to wait too long again because you're trying to hit the cancer hard. But both of those put together, I think it's a tough on your body. And she does look good, but you do see people walking around getting chemotherapy. But inside what's happening is often a different story. You can see their blood counts be low, you can see their fatigue, the nausea, anemia, you can see all sorts of different
The ups and downs.
It's cumulative too, over time, the way you feel. I think I was struck by the fact that she had to tell people. There have been so much criticism about this, but I think most of us know people that never want to tell anyone, and those that are just fine with putting it out there. And one of the things we all need to learn from is how we react to it, right? Don't say, I'm so sorry, because I think that's an awful thing to say to someone. Right. It's like sending this message like, oh my goodness. Right. But what do you say?
You know, this is becoming more and more difficult because we're seeing more people having been diagnosed with cancer. And I think it's difficult to be a public figure and be fighting a private battle because cancer fighting is a private battle.
Yes.
And to have to put it out there for everyone to speculate and talk about, discuss, I can only imagine how difficult it is for her and her family to sort of share all of this.
Well, and it was also one of those
young.
things, there was so much speculation, a lot of it negative, and then even late night talk show jokes about her inability to appear in front of a camera. But she addressed it, I thought, in a very interesting fashion, talking about trying to put this in the right frame to her own children, to her family first, before her role as a princess. And that's something I think people forget, that she becomes an object as opposed to a mom and a wife.
Yeah. And not only that, she talked a little bit about cancer survivors everywhere, which I think was really incredible because being now an early onset cancer survivor, she can be a spokeswoman for that. She can also help tell the journey about the fact that it doesn't end when the cancer is gone. on. Even if she's had surgery, even if she's had this chemo, even if she's back to her duties, she has to have scans for the rest of her life. She has to have this dagger hanging over her. The chemotherapy could have caused other damage that she has to be monitored for. You know, once you start on that cancer journey, it's a lifelong battle, really, and we have to respect the fact that she's fighting it with bravery.
Yeah, that message she sent was, be strong, you're not alone. And I think it was a powerful message as well. We'll continue to follow that, of course, and hopefully learn more about her condition. We wish her the best, as we do to all cancer survivors. We thank you for joining us today. You can find more with Dr. Coley at 9news.com/Dr. Coley.